I'd like to demonstrate a cool feature that exists in a lot of modern editors. It's called the multi-cursor. I'm going to show you how to do it in Visual Studio Code. For my example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in a bunch of column headers that came from a single row in an Excel document. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change all these column headers into C# properties. And that means I want to operate each one of these things at the same time in the same way. So how do I do that? Well, first of all, I'm just going to use find and replace to get them all on their own line. So I'm going to hit Ctrl+H to bring up the find and replace dialog. I'm going to use Alt+R to make sure that regular expression mode is enabled. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for tabs. I'm going to replace them with new lines. Ctrl+Alt+Enter is going to invoke that, and now everything's on its own line. There's a little more work to be done. I've got to replace all the non-word characters. That's going to be \W. I'm going to replace those with nothing. Okay. Now Ctrl+Alt+Enter again. It's going to put that into place. And now these things are looking like valid identifiers for C# class, for properties. Okay, so I'm going to put my cursor at the beginning of the first line, and I'm going to use Ctrl+Alt+Down-Arrow to deploy a second cursor. That's how the multi-cursor works. I'm going to do Ctrl+Alt+Down-Arrow and just hold it down until I've got a cursor at the beginning of every one of these lines. All right, I'm going to type the word public. That's where the magic happens. As you start typing, those letters are going to pop out at each one of those cursors. Let's just say they're all strings for now. I'm going to hit my end key to go to the end of each of these rows. Space. And then I'm going to put my get and set. You will also see that each one of these cursors has its own clipboard buffer. So if I were to hit my home key, put all these cursors at the beginning, I'm going to use Ctrl+right arrow to scoot along one word at a time. And I am at the beginning of each one of these identifiers. I can do Shift, Ctrl+right arrow and highlight them all, and cut them all. And if I were to paste them all, each one goes back to where it was, because each one of those cursors has its own little clipboard. Now let's hit Escape and turn off that multi-cursor, and I'm back at the beginning of the document. Let's tell Visual Studio Code that this is C#. What I'll do is I'll press Ctrl+K and then my M key. That'll let me select the language mode. I'm going to choose C# and press Enter. And now it's colored the lines to C# based on my theme. Some of these are dates. What do I do if I want to make anything that has the word date in it a date-time type? Here's what I'll do. I'll put my cursor right before the capital D in the first occurrence of the word date. And I'm going to hit Shift right arrow until I've highlighted date. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Ctrl+Shift+L. And that deploys a multi-cursor to each instance of that selected text. So now I've got all the dates highlighted, including the ones that we can't even see in my editor that are too far down. Now that I've got those cursors there, I can press Ctrl+left arrow to scoot back a word, Ctrl+left arrow to scoot back one more word, Ctrl+Shift+right arrow to select the word. I can put date time in there, and I'll hit Escape to cancel the multi-cursor. Another thing I can do is you can use the multi-cursor manually. So let's take a look at amount, hours, and rate. Let's say I know that I want those to be decimal. I can click the first one, and then I can Alt-click the other two, and I've deployed multi-cursors that way. And then I can do Ctrl+left to scoot one word to the left, Ctrl+Shift+right, and type in the word decimal. Now I've got those as decimals. And that's pretty much it. I started with a single line. I used search and replace to get those terms on their own lines, and then I used the multi-cursor to operate on each term concurrently. Let's take it a little bit further. what if I wanted to apply a naming convention to each one of these identifiers? Now that I've gone and changed these data types, our text is a little bit staggered, right? So if I wanted to highlight all these identifiers, that's a little tricky. If I were to just do what I showed you in the beginning and hit Ctrl+Alt+Down-Arrow, that works for the second line, but if I do it again for the third line, well, now my multi-cursor is in the beginning of that date time, and that's not going to work. There's no way that we can select each one of these terms if the cursor's in the middle there. But if we're clever, we can do it anyway. So bear with me. I'm going to hold Control, Alt, and down arrow and go all the way down to the bottom of the file again. Now I'm just going to hit my home key. Okay, I'm at the beginning now. And I'm going to use Control, right arrow. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do that one more time. And then I'm going to go Control, left arrow to go back one. Now I've got all of my multi-cursors at the beginning of that term. And I'm going to do Control, Shift, right arrow to highlight them all. And now I'd like to apply a naming convention. I'd like these to be in Pascal case. You can see some of these are kind of funky. We've got this NI category and this ARCO, AGIRC category. And I want these in strict Pascal case. Even that row ID, I want that D to be lowercase. So I'm going to use an extension that I've already got installed, and it's called the Change Case extension. Control-Shift-P is going to get me up into my command window. I'm going to type the word change just to filter down a little bit. And then I can just arrow down to Change Case, Pascal. And that's going to apply to all the selected text. And I'll just press Enter. And boom, now those are all in Pascal case. And this is all ready to be copied and pasted into a C# file. And in a different editor, or you could, of course, be using Visual Studio Code to do all this. I often work in the full Visual Studio IDE, and then I do some quick stuff in Visual Studio Code. So I'm often copying and pasting between the two. But there it is, the multi-cursor. It's mind-blowing.